It says we're live.
Yay!
Welcome to our Infinity War and Beyond episode over Ant-Man and the Wasp. I'm Joe.
I'm Ashley.
And we have a cat with us, so you might hear him for the moment, but we'll see where he goes in a minute.
Yeah, he was trying to steal my seat.
He was.
Which is weird because he didn't make the presentation.
At all.
Or know any of the facts or see the movie.
Nope.
Because cats are not allowed to go to the movie theater.
They are not.
Learn that the hard way.
Mm-hmm. Not a lot of emotional support cats.
No, not really. They're kind of badly behaved.
Yeah, it's difficult to train a cat.
Mm-hmm.
It's possible, just difficult.
Anyway.
That's off topic. But it's a little small talk for you.
Really?
Let's get to the big point of the show.
All right.
Click.
Thank you. So yeah, Ant-Man and the Wasp. So we revised our structure a little bit, but we really haven't changed too much. Of course, we're going to go over facts about the movie and the general overview, and then from then on, it's spoiler talk with our gripes, our likes, and then the things like the MCU connection, Stan Lee cameos, post-credits, I have wrapped up into a frame of MCU staples. So we will talk about each of those things as per the usual for these videos. Then we'll discuss a little bit of Infinity War implications because, you know, everything's connected.
Because the implication.
And then some box office breakdown comparing this movie to some of the other ones in the MCU.
Yep. All right.
Ready?
Yep. Oh. Go for it.
Is not clicking next.
Technical difficulties. Okay.
Manually have to do it, apparently.
Exciting.
Oh, fun times with technology.
Yep.
So Ant-Man, of course, Ant-Man and the Wasp, rather, was released this past Friday, the 6th of July in this year, 2018. Continuing to direct the films in the Ant-Man franchise, or part of the MCU broader franchise, is Peyton Reed. So this is the 8th movie in the 3rd phase. The phase will not end until Infinity War is solved. It's charted to open #1 at the box office this weekend. The budget reports are saying it's around 160 to 170 million, based off of the average that the budgets go up about 20 to 30 million dollars in the sequels for the MCU, but this is not an official number. It's slated to open at $76 million for the domestic opening, and it hasn't opened everywhere worldwide yet, so the worldwide total is in the $161 million range.
Yup. So we did have a few gripes. We did enjoy the movie overall, but there were a handful of issues that we had with it.
All right, so the first issue is the cold open, and so this little graphic represents that opening. We already know this information from the first movie, so the fact that they, I guess, didn't trust the audience to remember most of the information and kind of compress the storytelling was really frustrating to me. Like, you can obviously, I know the point of the cold open is to basically posit that Janet Van Dyne is probably still out in the quantum realm, but I feel like there was probably a better way to showcase that than to repeat everything that the audience already knows.
I think, yeah, they're because they use the opening in the first Ant-Man to kind of basically set up the integral, like the main problem that the team is going to have to solve, and that's someone stealing Hank Pym's technology. But they're doing it through like a flashback or a previous scene and stuff like that. They kind of do the same thing here, but it doesn't feel as necessary.
And the way that the movie started was so jarring. Like, at first I thought maybe there was something wrong in the 2 screenings that we went to, because the previews just kind of ended and then the movie just started. Like, it didn't feel like there was that like transition moment, like, now here's where the movie is starting, everybody pay attention. It was just kind of like bam.
Yeah, and it's not just bam, it's like a blank, it's like a black screen bam with Hank talking over it for a moment, and then it kind of fades into scenes and things like that. The we were talking about this a little bit ago, is like that's kind of like the cold open in the first Ant-Man did something similar insofar that it just kind of threw you into the cold open, but it threw you into the cold open by showing you like the still being constructed SHIELD HQ and tells you the year, but it doesn't say anything. It's not like you're just like bombarded with sound immediately and no visual setup. And film as a visual medium prefers, or I would prefer, you know, visuals.
Yeah, so it was a little jarring, and we saw the movie twice in the theater. So the first time, definitely, I was like, okay, there's something wrong because the previews totally ended in a weird way that doesn't normally happen in that theater. And this time, even though the previews did end in the particular way, or the typical way, it was like, oh, okay, so this is just how this movie starts. Still didn't like it. But, you know, it is what it is.
Cal the Kingslayer brings up that Evangeline Lilly got into amazing shape for this video, and that is, or for this movie, and that's incredibly true. She wrecked face in this movie.
All right, so I couldn't find a picture of this character from the actual movie. When movies are in new release, of course, it's a lot harder to find all the evidence to support our gripes. But this character is Agent Stoltz, who is the corrupt FBI agent that's kind of in the pocket of Sonny Birch's character, played by Walton Goggins. And so I don't think it was a bad character per se, but I feel like maybe we're missing something with him where we don't really get, like, why is he in the pocket of him? I just wanted a little bit more backstory with this character. Why was he in the pocket of Sonny? Was there some kind of antagonism between him and Wu in an earlier draft of the script where maybe he felt that Wu was not competent enough to be an FBI investigator and that he should be the boss and get promotions? So it just was very, like, kind of even like not really surface level, but just like not poorly written. I'm trying to think of the best way to say it.
It's like it's lacking a piece of the puzzle.
Yeah.
It's nothing super major. It's nothing so disruptive that it makes the movie like unwatchable, but it is something noticeable.
Yeah, especially on that second viewing. It's like, okay, like, why is he doing this? I mean, obviously it's not a plot hole or anything, but I just wanted to know maybe if there was some more to this relationship, which Sonny alludes to, like, hey, I have a contact on the inside, and then they reveal later that it's this character. But you know, in other movies they typically let you know like why the person is kind of, you know, shirking their duties.
Yeah, why they're corrupt.
Yes. All right, and another one that I could not find a picture for because, again, same reasons. It's a new movie. Joe, you had a clever name for this.
Janet Ex Machina. It's like I get the reasoning behind it. They explain it as best they can because that's what these Ant-Man movies have, where they're full of pseudoscience and like the kind of weird, mad science that wouldn't work. But she literally kind of like temporarily fixes Ghost's problem and is basically like, yeah, quantum realm can do it. I can do it too. I have magic touching powers.
Like, oh, I can sense that you're hurt here, child. Let me heal you with my lay on hands.
Basically. So it's
very convenient.
Yes, and it's not a bad move. It does feel slightly contrived. Like yeah, we knew this was going to happen.
Yeah, I think they give you a little bit of a hint when she interacts with Hank in the quantum realm. But still, it just felt very like, and here's the problem solved.
Yeah, it's something that you could also see coming if you know about, I'm not going to say lazy, but if you know about like storytelling, it's like a video game dilemma or a tabletop RPG dilemma. You can either solve the problem by force or you can solve the problem the good way, and chances are good the other problem you need solved will be solved. It's the dilemma of, do I just kill the NPC and take their item, or do I help the NPC and they give me the item?
Yeah, so it's kind of like they got both of their wishes where they didn't, you know, Janet's life did not have to be sacrificed to save Ghost, and by saving Janet, they were able to save Ghost.
Or at least help her long enough.
Yeah, where she could, you know, get the temporary relief that she needs.
Yep.
All right, that was really it for gripes.
Yeah,
there wasn't too many.
We really enjoyed this movie, if you can't tell, with our super little gripes, and all of our gripes was kind of an issue. Checking with the chat. So far, only Cal's talking in, and it's cool. And isn't Wasp kind of a misnomer? I feel like Yellow Jacket was more Wasp. Wasp is more like a dragonfly. Yeah, well, I mean, comics.
I think I saw an article on either like Film School Rejects or one of those other sites where they had somebody break down like why it is Wasp and like why it's necessary for a Wasp to be female. Like there's some kind of science relationship, but I did not have time to read the article, so I don't know. But you know, I'm sure there's an explanation.
I'm just gonna be like, because it was that way in the comics, and they may be changing some things from the comics, but there's like iconic concepts they want to stick to, and Janet Van Dyne and then eventually Hope Van Dyne being the Wasp is, I think, one of those major ones. But yeah, she was awesome though.
Shall we go to the likes then?
Let's do this.
All right. So the first set is kind of focusing on some characters. I really love that Wu, again, like the most incompetent FBI agent ever. Like, how did he get to this position? But I thought it worked really well, especially when we're introduced to him and he's trying to, you know, talk to Scott's daughter, Cassie. And at first he's doing such a great job explaining it to her on a kid level. And then he goes into this way too complicated legalese.
He basically explains like, well, we have to do this because your dad went to Germany and helped Captain America, who was a criminal, do this thing.
Yeah.
And then he literally explains the letter of the law, like as if reading it from a freaking law like some manuscript.
Yeah, so again, it's not that he's incompetent. It's just that he's like, he doesn't have a lot of self-confidence.
He feels like the kind of guy he's got a heart full of justice, but he's way too like kind-hearted.
Yeah,
like
he's so easily impressed when Scott does the close-up magic. It's like, where did you learn that? And then he's trying to do it later. I really enjoyed his character, and going back to the scene where he's trying to explain complicated legal issues to a 5th grader, and then Scott makes a sarcastic comment, you know, a la, you know, perfect Paul Rudd. Oh, you're so good with kids. Thanks. I'm a youth pastor. It's like, I cannot imagine what those youth pastor children's church sessions are like.
Yeah, Cal saying Randall Park was great. He was. There's one scene that defines his character, I think, and it's towards the end of the movie when they're told that his people have caught Pym and Van Dyne, and he's like, yes, awesome, I needed that win. And he's like, oh, sorry, I'm so sorry, Scott, I know they're your friends, but we really
needed this.
Yeah,
you should be proud of yourself. And then of course Scott is not proud because, you know, he got away and they didn't.
But like, you got to think about like any other FBI agent in most other movies, because that's the thing I think this movie does fairly well, is it defies like tropes and expectations every so often, and Park is one of those defied expectations
of like the hard-boiled
because most
FBI
time,
agent,
FBI investigation leader, he would end his sentence at the "yes, we got him," and then go on about his business. But he's like, he realized like he does like Scott.
Yeah,
he's had to deal with him for 2 years
they have
now.
So many awkward moments where it's like, I didn't get you this time, but I'll get you next. I'll see you next time, Scott. Like, what are you talking about? We're gonna go to dinner. Do you want to go? No, wait, no. And then when he's at his he gets caught doing the like, he enrolled in the magic university so he could do the tricks.
Yep.
Anyway, I really enjoyed his character, a different kind of FBI agent where he's like, he kind of comes across as incompetent, but he knows the law. It's just he not very
too much about people,
and he's not very like assertive, like a typical like the stereotype of the agency. No. So I liked it.
Yep. Walton Goggins, or as we like to call him from our S.H.I.E.L.D. days, Cletus Van Dam.
Yeah, he was great. I did hear a complaint somewhere online where they're like, they should have just made this Justin Hammer. But I really feel that, you know, bringing in a new character helps expand the universe. And and I think Justin Hammer is still in jail. Yeah. Or he should be if he's not. And plus, if they had gotten anything from Justin Hammer, it would have like blown up the whole lab. So that's probably best not to go with Hammer Tech.
All the Hammer Tech in Luke Cage works. That's what those guns are.
You mean the Judas, or is it the Judas bullets?
Yeah, they're all hammer guns.
That don't work after he got
Well, yeah, but that's not Hammer's fault.
He got re-looped. That's not the right phrase.
That
anyway,
is totally
that's
not.
totally off topic. So yeah, Walton Goggins is this perfect Southern sleazy
arms dealer.
Yeah, arms dealer.
He's more of a tech dealer, but
restaurant magnate. And you can definitely tell he's creeping on Hope just a little, but with that Southern charm where...
He is the 2018 equivalent of the 1980s Southern gentleman.
Yeah.
Like, he could be in the next reincarnation of the show Dallas and be like an oil tycoon, and it would fit perfectly.
And when he gets old, he could be Matlock.
He could be. Oh, my God, I'd watch
that. Like the reboot of Matlock with Walton Goggins as Ben Matlock. I would watch that show.
You guys heard this, right?
Copyright me if you need. I'll go register that with the Writers Guild West after this.
For real, though.
Because, they're going to be stealing that.
Yep.
I'll be getting in contact with his people later. But he's great because it's not really that this movie has, like, a true villain. It's just there's a bunch of different antagonists. Like, he obviously thinks something's up because...
He is the most nefarious of them.
Yeah, Pym and them are opening up the quantum realm, but he doesn't know why.
His motivation is purely like financial gain and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, as he says that the quantum realm is the forget AI and nanotech and all of those things, like quantum
this
energy.
Is the new tech gold rush.
And that makes me think of, like, when they're having a conversation earlier
in the movie.
And it's like, do y'all just put quantum in front of everything?
Yeah.
So he was pretty great. I loved him as the primary antagonist.
Yep.
And then our other antagonist who also wants access to the quantum realm, of course, is Ghost. Her real name is Ava, and she has a past with Hank Pym, where her father worked for him, and then Hank Pym, according to her, discredited him and fired him. So because he was trying to regain his livelihood and status, he took a little too many risks and ended up hurting himself catastrophically along with her mother.
She got Fantastic Forward.
Yes, where she got these powers where she phases between quantum states, and it hurts so much because it's her cells being ripped apart and sewn back together. She was repeatedly.
She was so much better in this than she was in Ready Player One.
Yeah, I really love the character, and I like again, I don't want to call her a villain because she did have, like, a good reason why she wanted this technology. She's just a little, pain causes you to not
think straight.
Think straight, exactly. It really causes your judgment to be altered. So I can see why she would take these shortcuts to get this technology so that basically she could literally save her life. Whereas in the trailers... Because I try to avoid all the TV spots, but to try to help me get graphics for this, I did watch a lot of them, and they kind of mislabel her motivations in the TV spots where it's like she's going to take over the world, and that's not what it is at all.
Yeah.
She just wants to be able to live and not to be in pain anymore, and this is the only way that she can
think of, that she knows of.
Yes, this technology, and to basically extract the quantum energy from Van Dyne.
Cal suggests that he thinks maybe they unmasked her too soon, and I can agree to that. Like, because that's the thing, when she's introduced, she's like this like faceless killing machine practically. She's a monster, and then she takes it off, and then she's making googly eyes at Scott.
Yeah. Because she takes it off before they meet Scott when she gets back to her chamber, and so I would like to see a delay on that, but I thought she was very good as the antagonist. And then her partner in crime is Dr. Bill Foster, played by Lawrence Fishburne. And so I like the misdirect that they do with this, and kind of funny because magic tricks, misdirection is kind of one of the little motifs.
One of the major motifs of this
in the movie, and it's like. Obviously, they go to him because the building's been stolen. We got to find it. And him and Hank have a past as well where Hank fired him.
Adding more to the sins of the father motif of this crap.
And Hank is just so mad that people are just slandering him, according to him, because he was such a good person in his mind.
Yeah.
But Dr. Foster is working with Ava to try to cure her. But you can definitely see, especially in this shot, where he doesn't want to go to the lengths that she's willing to go. Like at one point, she's like, well, we'll just kidnap Scott's daughter. He's like, if you do that, I will not help you.
Yeah, we're done. If you do that, we're done.
And he doesn't want to hurt people. So like, he definitely, like, he obviously cares about her. They have a long standing relationship where he's definitely been like a father figure to her, because he's the one that like sought after her accident. And so he definitely sees this as a daughter figure, but he's not going to do bad things for...
He's not going to cross that line.
Yes. And so that's what I really liked about his character.
Yep. I enjoy it as well. I will say one of the TV spots or one of the trailers with his back and forth on Scott on how big they both got through the Goliath program.
We'll talk about that.
I think was handled better.
Yeah, we'll talk about that because I have that in another segment as well. And then really cool in the flashback, which I didn't have time to try to hunt this down, but they use like the de-aging technology on all the other people like Pfeiffer and Douglas, but they just got his own son to play him as a younger version. So that was really cool.
Which I did not know the first time we saw it.
I forgot where I heard that from, and then I looked it up to confirm it, and it's like, wow. That's really cool.
That's a son that looks just like his dad.
And then, of course, getting into some of the relationship dynamics in the movie, which I thought were really great, where they didn't try to retcon things where it's like, oh no, we have a sequel, and they don't have that sequel problem where it's like, we got to get everybody back into starting positions. Now, of course, Hope and Hank are mad at Scott, but they have a good reason to be mad at Scott. So, because he did something that he shouldn't have done, and they're on the run now. And so this is a scene where she has kidnapped Scott because they need what's inside his head. And I think this is when she's kind of side-eyeing that he's bragging about having met Captain America. I also like the look of her character in this movie because it feels like this is a woman that's been on the run for a while. Yeah. Like, she doesn't have that prim and proper haircut anymore. She looks a little more dressed for stealth and not the high fashion that she had been doing.
To quote Louise, all business.
All business. So I thought that, yeah, she looked appropriately like incognito and definitely not living in the life of luxury anymore.
And then, of course, our favorite little cinnamon roll of a father figure in Luis. He is amazing.
I would just watch an MCU movie of just like Luis doing Luis things with his little company friends.
I made a tweet about it not too long ago, like the other night, wanting to petition Marvel to make a MCU, like a 5-minute MCU recap of like all the movies from Age of Ultron all the way up to Infinity War. And basically kind of the how we got where we are situation done by Luis. That
would be amazing. And we'll kind of look at his little segment down the line. But he's great. And then he kind of serves as, why don't you talk about his father figure-ness?
Yeah, we recently we watched a Screen Junkies thing where they talked to Peyton Reed about it. And he mentioned that one of the goals they wanted to do in the first Ant-Man was make Luis like the father figure of this little troop of ex-cons. And making them waffles all the time and things like that. And they continue it in this one and actually make it like a little more like he's way more responsible than he was, because he is the manager of their little startup business they're doing, their security business, which honestly, a bunch of ex-convicts being your security detail, like designing the security for your building, that just sounds like it's the perfect idea.
Yeah, because they're gonna know exactly. They're gonna make it flawless, but they're having some financial trouble, and he's been hiding that from the team.
Yeah, at least the two of them, and
it's really funny because they're serving like those Intamins, like a little roll or whatever. And he's like, quit giving them the fancy stuff, which that's not even fancy at all. But they must be hurting really hard if the little Debbie snacks are going to put them in the red.
And when they're giving their parts of the presentation, they're supposed to get this big client. He's like encouraging them and like, okay, do this and try this. I'm going to go take care of this, and et cetera, et cetera. It's just, he's very much more of a father figurely character.
And I like that he gets a lot to do in the action as well. Like, I mean, he had like a good part in the first movie, but I'm glad that they didn't just sideline the characters.
I think everyone has a
altogether.
little bit more to do in this one.
And same with our lovely ex-con assistants from the last movie, T.I., who I think plays Dave, and then I can't remember the Russian character's name. They kind of give him a little more to do in the movie as well. Like, he's the one that calls Ghost Baba Yaga, and he's at one point when she phases in, he starts singing the little Baba Yaga
like a lullaby to like ward her off kind of thing.
And they're really great, and especially when they apprehend Walton Goggins and crew later on, it's like, we got these dudes for you.
Yep.
And then when T.I. Is practicing the speech and like looking at the card and then talking, and it's great.
I can't remember the character's name. I wish I could, but the Russian guy, when he leans over and says something to finish his statement, that's when Luis is like, and I love the little lean in you did there. That's great.
So yeah, these guys were great.
And of course, Scott's family.
Yeah, like literally, this is the part where I was really happy they didn't retcon the relationship where both of them would be mad at him.
Yeah.
They just seem to really like love Scott so much and are so proud of him. Like at one point, Scott has to take a phone call from his daughter, and they're like all saying like bye to him. Like there's like group hugs, and it just feels like a really good relationship that they have. And I kind of like this as more indicative of what a lot of modern families are going through that do get along. It's not always like the wicked stepmother or stepfather situation.
And we talked about it on our way home today. It's like, I think the big reason there was so much like aggravation is both Paxton and again Judy Greer, everyone's mom.
I think her name is Maggie in this.
Maggie and Paxton both care so much about Cassie, and they just don't want Scott to hurt Cassie. That's their big fear. And whenever it's kind of found out that no, he would literally do anything for her, everything eases up and becomes, calmer and comfortable, and it's just really sweet. They're really great.
And then, of course, Scott and Cassie, they have a really great intro when it comes to present day where they, he can't go anywhere with her.
Yeah.
So he has made this elaborate heist, and they're playing pretend heist, and Luis is helping them, and they got little like ants, and they have like the little ant getaway, and it's just so great, but also kind of messed up because
their playtime is heist.
Their playtime is breaking into things, and then she knows the terms fuzz and popo, and he's like, where did you learn this?
And then I think you're the one that even brought it up, though, when we were talking about, like, her dad is a cop.
Yeah, so she probably, has heard some cop talk, and this is the first moment where, she realizes that he is now Ant-Man again, because obviously he couldn't be Ant-Man because he was on house arrest, and supposedly the suit had been destroyed.
Yep.
And she talks about, him needing a partner, and then she's the one that wanted to be his partner, and he's like, honey, you would be a great partner, because she kind of gets upset, where it's like, don't laugh. He's like, no, honey, you'd be great. But if I let you be my partner, I would be the worst dad ever, because he's kind of like assuming that role that Hank has with his daughter, where he doesn't want her to get hurt. And so that's why he was hesitant to let her do things in the last movie. So I'm kind of wondering because I don't know when the next Ant-Man will be, but I wonder if they'll give her even more to do with like helping him out in the future. I would love to see something like that, because she's a great little actress. She was so adorable in the first movie, and she's still adorable in this one. Like, she gets sassy with the FBI agents.
There's a scene where the news is showing Scott in his giant form at the wharf, and Maggie and Paxton are like, oh no, and it pans down to her, and she's got this huge smile on her face, like, yeah.
And then I was also glad to see that they didn't try to reset Hope and Hank's relationship. Like, obviously she was hurt at the end of the movie last time, but time has passed. They've had this joint mission of trying to rescue her mother, and you can really tell that it's brought them a lot closer together, where they're not as antagonistic toward each other. And so I think the growth of relationships between the first movie to this one is a really strong point in its favor, where it doesn't just try to retcon it. We need to set everything back to starting so that we can recapture that magic. And then when you do that, it never really works that way. It's showing a lot of growth. So
it's basically showing new magic, and that's good. It's all close-up magic.
So that was one of the things I thought was really strong about it. And then we kind of talked about this a little bit earlier, but the de-aging software magic looked a lot better in this movie.
So much better.
I don't think it was quite as sepia in the theater as this image that I pulled from online, but both Pfeiffer and Douglas looked very good. There wasn't any kind of like wonky mouth movements or anything.
Let's be honest. There wasn't a lot of work they need to do for Michelle Pfeiffer.
She is beautiful. But this was a great little moment. This was one of the stronger parts of the cold open, when they actually gave you information that you didn't know previously.
Yep. And it showed a little more of the ballistic missile launch and stuff like that, like when they got there and all that jazz.
But again, like that core part of the story, we didn't really need repeated for us.
If they had started with this part instead of him recounting it, and then moved into him recounting it, where he talks about like, and then Scott did this, and then this happened, and now I think we can get her out, and that would have been I think a better way to pace it.
But slightly. They did not call us for the script because we're not.
And hindsight's 2020. They may see it now and be like, no, maybe we should have done it this other way or something. It's
not bad. It's just, you can't there's got to be like some little nitpick somewhere.
Yeah.
And so again, this part of the cold open was good because it also helped establish that the little girl that Scott sees in his vision or his dream is young Hope. And
we get to see Janet as well, and for when Scott sees himself as Janet.
Yeah.
So
that way we're not like shocked. Although that would have been an interesting reveal.
Yep.
Because I know in the first movie when they would have like a family picture of them, because obviously they hadn't thought this far ahead, it was like Janet, but just like a big hat on her so you can't see her face.
The light is like right there. Or,
you can't see her. Right. Another part of the visual effects that I thought looked really cool was the quantum phasing.
Yep.
I liked that a lot.
Ghosts element of it in the real world, and then later when we see inside the quantum realm, Hank has a little phase thing going on too, and it's really cool.
And then, of course, all of the miniature, the shrinking, like especially this moment where she's running along the knife's edge, really cool, and just felt like she was really trying to like move against these like powerful forces, where it didn't feel like it was just like an easy situation for her. You could really feel the effort behind it.
Yeah.
And then, of course, this little moment where he's got to try to get an ant.
Antonio Banderas.
Yeah, so like all of the eagles, or not eagles, seagulls, are eating all of the ants as they're flying in to rescue Ant-Man. And he's like, you like murderers! And then another one is trying to get at him. So that was kind of like a little sad but also lighthearted moments. Of course, this being primarily a comedy, a lot of lighthearted moments.
And I think they even mentioned, like he kind of alluded to it when we talked about the thing we watched earlier, the Screen Junkies thing, where he's like, yeah, in the first one, we made you cry about an ant, and in this one, we're going to totally deflate that.
Yeah.
And that's basically what they did. Every ant he named got taken out within moments of being named.
Yeah.
Because I think he tried to name all the ants that were flying in before the birds started getting him to, a few of them at least.
I don't remember that. I do know that Antonio Banderas,
Yep.
was one. There was also
Antoine and Antoinette.
Yeah, those were the fake ants from the house, and Ulysses S. Grant was one of the other ones. Kind of speaking to breaking up the tension, that cell phone scene that we talked about earlier was really great because I think like Bill, Dr. Foster was kind of like doing that monologuing thing, and then
explaining the history, explaining what they're gonna do, and that they need to save her.
Ringtone is kind of like a weird, like very kid ringtone to let him know that his daughter is texting him, and it's 911 emergency, and it just kind of keeps cutting the tension until finally she calls, and it's like, you have to let me answer this. She's
gonna know something's up.
Yeah, and it's like, what do you need, honey? I don't know where my shoes are. And that's just so funny. It's like, sorry.
Which, as a side note as well, I really love that Scott has different ringtones for everyone.
Yeah.
Because Morrissey is Luis's ringtone.
It's because, people love Morrissey.
The building.
The building shrinking, which again is a little ridiculous because if you think about like the way the technology is supposed to work, like how is this possible?
Everything about this movie and the one before it is ridiculous.
But it's just fun. There's like a bird on it, and then they have like a little pop-up thing so you could basically lug it around like luggage.
Yep.
It's really cool looking. And then, the Pez dispenser with the Hello Kitty. Luis didn't seem too upset that Hope threw this at bad
his
people.
presence stopped two bad guys.
Yeah, but that was a really cool moment. Kind of like I don't feel like I guess this is supposed to be the equivalent of like the Thomas the Tank Engine moment, like iconic toy. Thing.
This is probably one of them. I get that.
And then, of course, there's a lot of giant moments as well because this is a prototype suit. All of the bugs have not been worked out of it. And so he kind of randomly grows and shrinks. And his height impedes his ability to capture Sunny. And Sunny gets away to the boat. And it's like, how did he even have time to get a ticket? And so he grows even bigger. And they all think that he's a whale. And he even does a little like whale tail.
His feet do a whale tail, yeah.
And apparently there's like a lot of different takes of this that they did that were jokes of him like trying to scare everybody.
Yeah.
But I
like the one they used for the movie.
Yeah, the one they used for the movie was just pretty basic. It wasn't as joking. It's like, here, I need to take this from you. This is not yours.
You've lost. Just let it go.
This is not yours. And then I really like seeing the visual from this angle where it's, looks basically like a toy boat. And
like he's playing in the bathtub.
Yeah, just really cool looking. I like how they played with the fact that he could grow to these enormous sizes. It wasn't always him, and Hope being in the miniature form, but in different sizes. And then, so of course, there's a lot of different moments where that messes up, where he's too short and he has to run through the elementary school and he like steals a hoodie from the Lost and Found to pretend to be a student so that he'll blend in. And then they make fun of him for being little. Or it's like, oh, are you cranky?
How was school, champ?
Do you want a juice box and a string cheese? Do you actually have that?
Do you have that?
I thought it would have been funny if they had a moment where he was actually drinking out of a little juice box.
And he has to two-hand it because he's too small.
But, maybe that's just me thinking that's funny. And of course, the quantum realm looked really cool, and we got to see a lot of microscopic organisms.
Tardigrades.
Yeah, in which apparently these things they look like they were going to murder Hank.
Oh yeah, no, they will eat you. They are incredibly tiny organisms that can survive almost anything, so they probably also eat almost anything.
So that was really cool. Now, this was some of the best moments in 3D anytime they went to the quantum realm.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, the best moment in the whole movie is Luis's story about where Scott is. And it's so great because he can't tell a story without telling you all of these different tangents. And they make a joke about, like, you paid you put the
dime in the jukebox.
You have to let the whole song play.
And then that cuts to him talking about a jukebox at his grandma's business that only had Morrissey on it, and she'd get really mad when he complained that she'd be playing Morrissey.
Yeah, which they call Moss.
Moss, I think,
Yeah, so that was pretty great because they talk about the people in his culture really love Morrissey and, like, the somber melancholy tones. So that's really cool. And that's actually like based in reality. Like Morrissey is super popular in a lot of like Central and Latin American countries. So
interesting.
That's really cool. But yeah, the story's great, especially because like he's on this truth serum, but of course it's not really truth serum because that's not real, but it totally acts that way.
Cow truth serum.
And he starts talking about how, like, oh yeah, I just met you, and like we're gonna be best friends, and just the mouth movements the other actors do imitating Luis's style of storytelling is great. And I was like, man, she's my girl, I miss her. Like, oh, he's gonna screw it up.
Yep. Especially, I think Hopes are the best.
Mm-hmm. I'm all serious and super.
Look at my hair. I'm super business and super serious.
Yeah, I would have loved. I think you had brought it up that they didn't do a Michael Douglas.
I would have loved one from him.
That would have been really great.
Or even one with Ghost where he doesn't see her face, but just the
head movements. Yes, that would have been awesome. And then he's like, no, like where I told you to tell me where Scott is. Well, I'm trying to tell you where he is emotionally. Tell me where he is literally. And then the last one, I don't have a picture for this because I couldn't really find one. But there's a great sequence where they're trying to open up the quantum realm. Scott's there and things aren't working. And then suddenly you kind of see his head turn. And he starts
his body demeanor changes.
Yeah, he runs to the computer and he's all typing away. It's like, Scott, get away from that, because clearly he doesn't know anything about computers.
Scott might be an electrician, but he is not a physicist.
Yeah, like anytime they explain something scientific, you can just tell he's like, oh yeah, I totally thought that too. He doesn't know, he's out of his element.
Yeah,
which is fine. But he starts like using the computer and his voice. Like it's
lightens,
lightens a bit. It's a little softer, and his movements, and then like the eye contact.
Well, and he caresses both, like he caresses their cheeks and all sorts of other stuff, and they're just like, "What is going on?"
Yeah, because Janet has
entangled with his brain,
to help them out, because like they just needed that push, and it's like, I'm so proud of you, and they're just like so shocked, and then like.
But once they're awake to it, they're all like.
Yeah, and they're like holding hands, and then he comes back, and he has no memory of what happened.
Yeah, nothing happened. How do we get up here? And he looks over. He's like.
Yeah, like, why are we holding hands like this? So that was probably my favorite moment of the whole
kudos
movie.
to Paul Rudd for being able to pull that off as well.
Yes, anytime that you have to try to pull off the mannerisms of another character, another actor, that's always really great.
I wonder how much Michelle Pfeiffer coached him through how she'd do that kind of stuff for him to do it.
So yeah, that was pretty great.
So we are now at MCU connections.
All right, and so for these ones, we're mostly looking backward till we get to some later parts in the movie. So really all the connections here are to what happened in Civil War when, again, Scott went to Germany, as we talked about earlier, and Wu tried to explain it poorly. His analogy was to Cassie, it's wrong for you to color on the walls. So Scott went to Germany and colored on the walls with Captain America, and then that's when he explains the whole Sokovia Accords and too much legalese for a 10-year-old.
Like the actual paragraph subsect portion of the Sokovia Accords that Scott specifically violated.
Yes. So that was one of the earliest.
Scott here looking very dude.
Yes, very dude. And so one of the earliest references, besides the cold open, of course, connecting back to Ant-Man, he brags about having met Cap, and then she's like, Cap? Yeah, Captain America. That's what we call him.
Call him Cap.
And so she's making fun of him for that. And then like later when he shrinks down to child size, like, oh, if Cap could see you now.
Yeah.
Because I think in some of the footage they didn't use, he brags a lot more about being an Avenger now, because they called him. And of course, she also talks about the fact that if you had brought me with you, you wouldn't be in this predicament.
And chances are good she's probably right.
Yeah, because she's very competent.
If she had gotten Hank or if he had gotten Hank and Hope involved, then things would have gone very differently.
Yes, and then so this is when Goliath, Dr. Bill talks about Project Goliath, which I'm assuming is more of a comic book reference.
It is. And
how he had grown to like 21 feet. And then Scott is so excited about 65. 65. And then their little disguises are so terrible. It's like, we don't look like we're disguised. We look like us going to a baseball game.
Which is, I believe, Scott's exact words. Like, shades and a baseball cap are not in disguise. We look like us going to a baseball game.
So that was pretty great. And this whole exchange, of course, was really great because anytime that people are mean to Hank Pym, I just really enjoy that for some reason.
Yep. So, Stan Lee cameo.
So I don't actually have a picture of this, but his car in the fray between all the different forces who want the lab gets shrunken, and he's like, man, and he says something about the 60s were weird, and now I'm like paying for it.
I was like, the 60s were great, but now I'm paying for it or something like that.
So I guess implying his character did a lot of substances in the 60s. So
Possibly.
I don't know. I was kind of like, what? And then, of course, this is where things start to get, it was a fun romp.
Everything was
fine.
To quote Doctor Who, everybody lived.
So a lot of people describe Ant-Man and the Wasp as being the palate cleanser of the MCU. And then, of course, the mid-credits, I thought they would have waited all the way to the end credits to do this, but nope. Scott goes into the quantum realm to get quantum energy to help out Ghost. And I don't actually have a picture of it, but they're about to bring him back from the quantum realm, and then radio silence. And then he's like, guys, this is not funny. And we cut back to Hank, Hope, and Janet, and they are dust in the wind.
Yeah, that was pretty intense.
And then our first theater, I think a lot of people left, which was weird because it was one of the earliest showings, and hello, it's a Marvel movie. You stay till the end. But people in this screening today were like, oh, bleep.
Yeah.
It was awesome.
It was pretty great.
It was so great. Like, this one dude just kept going on like, oh no, oh my God.
Yeah.
It was awesome.
I was like that too on our first screening, but I was just like,
yeah, oh no.
How's he gonna get
Exactly. How is he gonna get out? Because if he's using the same suit, it's probably busted. But yeah, so they just kind of, they lined it right up to where we're going. I'm hoping that that's not a scene that they show in the next Avengers.
Yeah.
Because I really hate when they do stuff like that.
Yep.
And then, of course, the post-credits was more of innocuous,
Which,
but it kind of...
Cal was saying, like, the credits is a gag.
Yeah, it just kind of but it also lets you know that, like, there's, like, a state of emergency going on, but the little ant is just jamming away.
It's programmed to.
Yeah, we don't see, like, Luis or anyone, around in the house. The door's open, so implying maybe that he's gone. So it's kind of a... I obviously know why they ordered them this way, but it's definitely kind of like we've already kind of seen this moment before in the trailer, so it wasn't as enjoyable to see this one. And then I remember the guy that was so vocal about the end credits, he said something about like, man, Captain Marvel's gonna be awesome or something like that. He was real excited.
I am too.
Yes, I am as well. All right, so
pop back over to the chat real quick. Cal was bringing up that he saw IGN's take on the Stan Lee stuff. Apparently, it's just supposed to reference like drugs and the fact that Ant-Man debuted in the 60s.
Okay.
Which makes sense because a lot of Marvel's current big deals came out in the 60s. Yeah, that's when Marvel became king. Mm-hmm. Let's see. Seems like all the end credit scenes are gags, and I think that's been a trend since at least Guardians, because like. I know the mid-credits might have been important because I think the first because Guardians are like 5. Yeah. But the first mid-credit was something about like Adam Warlock or whatever, and the rest of them were like Groot, clean up your room, and Kraglin hitting Drax in the neck with the arrow and that kind of stuff. Yeah. And then with Thor Ragnarok, the final credit scene was the Grandmaster and the failed revolution.
Yeah, I think they're doing the more serious ones earlier because I guess I figure like people's patience is not as great. Yeah. Especially that they're doing more than one end credit scene. In these, because the original run of the movies, Hulk doesn't even have an end credits technically. It's before the credits. They have the little connection with Tony Stark, and then all the other ones only have one. They started doing multiple credits later on. I forgot which movie started that.
But. Okay, yeah. Cal brings up Captain America. Wants to know if Captain Homecoming or Guardians 2 came first. I think Guardians 2 came first. But I'm honestly not too sure.
Guardians 2 is before Homecoming.
Okay.
In the release order, yes.
Okay, so yeah, because then Homecoming had the whole, like, it had the prison scene.
Yeah,
and then it had the Patience.
Yeah, that's my favorite one.
Yeah, Patience was great.
Yeah, because it's, they're really just calling us out. So, let's talk about where we leave off with Ant-Man. I don't have pictures for this, so you don't have to like leave it on this screen if you don't want to. But, as a talking point, like, how do we think Ant-Man's going to get out of the quantum realm?
Either someone's going to come along, Strange is going to get him out, contingencies, or Ghost maybe. It feels like something that like Stark and Cap would together find out.
Yeah.
Like Cap's like, okay, we need to get everyone together that we can. I know Lang could help, et cetera, et cetera. And he's like, okay, well, I don't know.
We gotta find
There's
Lang.
this or maybe someone just discovers a massive like source of quantum energy, because that thing has to be bleeding quantum radiation kind of stuff.
You think it might have something to do with Captain Marvel? Or
it's possible. There's so much that could be going on, because all the metaplanar stuff that's involved, all the other dimensions junk, so many other Marvel characters are involved in that kind of thing, that it would be interesting to see what happens.
Yeah, because all of the Phase 1 characters are still alive. And,
yes, all of them.
And they didn't get literally like dissolved into dirt.
Right.
Or whatever you want to call them. They're not
plus Rhodes,
Rocket.
Basically all original Avengers.
Yeah.
Plus Rhodes, Rocket, and not Gamora, Nebula.
Okay.
Ant-Man we know is. I was actually thinking maybe one of the other three would still be out. Still be okay. Either Janet, Hank, or Hope.
But yeah, this kind of leaves us in like people are going to be speculating about this for a while and coming up with their theories. I don't know if this has ever happened in the comics before, because I have not read all of the comics, of course. But I'm real curious to see how they solve this, because I'm guessing that he is going to be in.
Yeah, they apparently.
War,
I don't know if it's
Avengers 4.
I don't know if it's official, but there has been like leaked artwork that shows all the characters that are going to be. Like, it's all like speculative at this point. I don't know if it's official. Other people will know. I don't read as many other media sites as other people do, so I'm sometimes behind on this information. Cal brings up that there's IGN thinks maybe he finds like the other universes in the multiverse and makes it back somehow because of that. And asks if do you think it can connect Cloak and Dagger? Maybe. I don't know, because Marvel TV shows are weird about whether or not they connect to the Marvel movies.
Yeah, because I know all of the ones on Netflix are they're implicated in like the Sokovia Accords and all the
they talk about that,
New York.
but it's just like it's like just on the side, like it's in the periphery of the stories.
Like Luke Cage didn't have any kind of like, oh no, we've all disappeared now. Like there wasn't an oh snap moment.
Yeah, he brings up that Cloak travels through dimensions. It's possible. I don't know if they're going to include them. I don't know, because before we're at the same time frame that I think Marvel is going to get their hands on Disney at about this, or Disney is going to get their hands on the Fox properties at about the same time that for Infinity War, Marvel got the rights to use Spider-Man for Infinity War. So we could be getting something completely new, a few reshoots here and there to add certain things in, because that's kind of what they did in like the 10th hour, we'll say, because it wasn't the 11th. The 10th hour is they added Spider-Man to Civil War, and they could probably do that with this one too. I don't know. Yeah,
we do know at the end it did say that Ant-Man and the Wasp will return, and then it turned into a question mark. So
they'll be back.
So obvious, yeah. I mean, anybody that disappeared because Thanos snapped, you know that they can come back. It's the ones that didn't disappear that also do not have a slate of upcoming movies is the ones that we have to worry about. So like Spider-Man, Black Panther, the Guardians, like they're fine. Gamora, I don't know.
Gamora, Loki, Heimdall, at least them. Maybe a couple. Vision. Yeah, they're all probably Vision and Gamora. I put on the maybe train, because they're pivotal and important enough. Loki would be, but Tom Hiddleston's been doing Loki for a very long time now, and I'd imagine there's some actors.
I think he has one more movie on his contract, but that could mean anything.
Yeah, well, and he may have pre-filmed scenes or whatever. So,
Well, or things in the past.
Cal brings up like Silver Surfer. I'm not gonna lie, Avengers 4 would be a great place to insert the Fantastic Four, because Reed Richards is all about that, like every kind of science under the sun. And Silver Surfer would be in a similar vein, and that would be amazing.
All right. Are ready to look at charts?
Let's do the charts.
I know Cal likes charts.
To the charts.
All right. So this is our box office breakdown. So in our chart of how many weeks things spent at the top of the box office, of course, Ant-Man's debuting at number 1. Figure out a way to update that later, because this is the last episode in the Into Infinity War and Beyond series for now.
Yeah.
Because this is the last movie in this calendar year.
We are fully caught up now.
Yeah.
Even though we've done Infinity War and everything else, we still need to do the original Ant-Man. And now we have caught up completely to where all we're doing now are new movies.
Yes. All right. So comparing the opening weekends of Ant-Man versus Ant-Man and the Wasp. And again, I put the budgets there for comparison. Like we talked about last time, the Ant-Man movie did pretty well with critics and audiences and got an A cinema score for expectations. It opened at 57 plus $1 million. So it kind of had a very low opening compared to a lot of the other MCU movies. And I think that makes a lot of sense, because Ant-Man is not one of the top tier characters that everybody knows. Like, everybody knows X-Men, everybody knows Spider-Man,
Captain America.
Like, those are kind of like your
household names,
your AAA title characters.
And even if you know Ant-Man, it's kind of the same feeling that like Guardians gives off, where it's like, I don't know how they're going to do this.
Yes, and then with Iron Man, I think was so successful because you have a huge name behind it with
Robert Downey Jr.
You're
getting in the
and it was getting
the director.
Favreau.
Yeah, you're getting Favreau fans who love his directing style,
but everybody loves Robert Downey Jr. So I think that one was an interesting choice to start off with, but also a pretty strong choice because he is such an A-list actor.
Yes.
So,
and that was like his first major role
in
a
while.
Role in a while.
Yes, because he's had ups and downs in his career.
Yes.
Looking at Ant-Man and the Wasp, speculating at least at minimum $160 million for a budget. Did a little bit better with critics this time, but the audience scores have kind of sunk a little, but not to not a failing level. I've heard some people have complaints about this movie, and that's fine. A- for expectations, so it's not like a total tank or anything. And then $76 million opening, so it's tracking better than its predecessor, and that's always a good sign.
Yes, but
it'll be interesting to see what kind of, as they say on Screen Junkies with the charting with Dan, if this has legs and such.
It's got at least 6.
All right, so comparing the other MCU sequels, so these are all the second entries in their respective part of the franchise. So at the tops, we have their opening weekend box office, and then compared to their worldwide gross.
Their final.
Yeah, so Iron Man 2 did pretty well with $128 million, and then Thor, I think, is the second lowest one, The Dark World, with the $85 million opening weekend. Second, Captain America also did about $10 million more than that, which is kind of surprising because of how well praised that movie is. So definitely feel that word of mouth got out about how wonderful that was, and people saw it a lot.
Yeah,
because,
I think we saw it on the second weekend.
Yeah, I can't remember exactly that far back, but I know we did see it in the theater.
Around Winter Soldiers, when we started catching every one of them in the theater.
And so we could see that its worldwide box office did pretty well, more substantial than the other two. So it's just because a movie starts off strong doesn't mean that it'll necessarily finish strong.
Right.
And of course, Avengers, also the great almost $200 million debut. And of course, that's one of the billion-dollar babies in this franchise. And then Guardians, also a very substantial start, and it kind of edged close to the billion-dollar range, but just wasn't quite enough to get there.
It makes sense though that the reports are that the next huge movement the MCU is going to make is focus on some more of their galactic stories and that kind of stuff. And that makes sense considering Guardians has become like one of their breakout hits.
So if the estimate for Ant-Man and the Wasp opening weekend is correct, it will be the lowest opener for an MCU second entry. I have not compared the third entries in the franchise, but I will do that at some point.
And there's still a few more hours for the quote unquote Sunday box office.
Yeah, but usually Box Office Mojo is pretty accurate. And I think
it might change by about 1 million.
Yeah, and sometimes it goes down from what they predict. So I'm thinking that, for the type of movie that is, it's not a bad opening.
No.
Not everything cannot be
Winter Soldier.
Or, get your whole budget back in the first day, practically. Yeah. Not everybody can be that. So we still have both Black Panther and Avengers Infinity War still in the theater. And so both of their openings are like broke records. Black Panther broke so many records, and then Infinity War came in April and broke all the records that Black Panther was able to set, which makes sense because you have this huge event movie. I think Black Panther made its entire budget back in that first weekend, where Infinity War, because you have to pay for so many A-list actors, got most of its budget, but probably not.
It was only like it was a surprisingly small amount.
I would think it needs at least $70 million that opening weekend to have met its budget. Just its limit. And we can see that Black Panther is holding strong at its $1.3 billion box office, and Infinity War crossed over to the $2 billion mark not too long ago. So obviously I don't think Ant-Man, it kind of makes Ant-Man's little $76 million seem so small, but it is a smaller movie, and literally, and figuratively, it's a comedy. This is a great opening for a comedy movie.
Yes.
If this was just a straight up comedy that was not connected to any kind of big franchise, people would be going, "Oh my gosh, like this is so popular."
If this was like a Blank Man style superhero movie where there's no real other links other than it's a superhero comedy.
Yeah, and then it's already worldwide. Look, if it is this $160 million budget, then its worldwide budget has already been met in this first multi-market release weekend. Mm-hmm. So I think it has the potential to get to that, maybe $500 million mark, but I think a lot of people are going to be wrongly looking at that $76 million opener and going like, what's Marvel's problem? Yeah. All of the think pieces are going to come out. And again, not everything has to be billions and billions of dollars box office wise.
I honestly think the big thing is Ant-Man, the first Ant-Man, which did fairly well, was not exactly the $1 million or the big Marvel darling movie like all the rest of them are. It's usually the one that everyone's like, it was good.
Yeah, Ant-Man was there.
If you really liked Ant-Man, you really liked it. It's like, it is still one of my top 3 favorite. It's not as good as some of the other ones, I'll admit, but it's still one of my favorites. And Ant-Man and the Wasp is up there now too.
Yeah, I thought it was a pretty solid movie. I did think that there were some issues with the not necessarily the pacing of the movie, but just I felt like there was a lot going on at some points where it didn't have as tight of a story. But I still think it's right up there. It's a great sequel. Peyton Reed is a really great director. I've seen like a few of his movies. Probably the most notable one from his early career is Bring It On.
We might be watching more soon.
Yes, and so he's a good director. He knows comedy. He's a great guy. Again, if y'all have not looked at the Screen Junkies Honest Trailer commentary with him, that is something to check out, especially if you do enjoy, director insight. It's really awkward to see, he keeps pausing in the video to like explain like what they were going for in the movie and kind of calling out the Honest Trailer people for any kind of like, well, that joke was a little too mean or that kind of thing.
Cal is surprised at the $2 billion from Infinity War and asked if it's the highest ever. I think it is the highest Marvel movie.
Yeah, it's definitely the highest out of all of the MCU movies. I don't think it's surpassed Avatar yet because I want to say Avatar is still like the highest grossing movie of all time without adjusting for inflation. But I have not double checked those numbers. I have not heard speculation of that, though. Let's look at the other movies in Phase 3, not the ones that are currently in theaters, but the ones that led up to it. So like before, it has its domestic opening compared to its worldwide box office. So we can see that the other movies did, fairly well. Obviously, Civil War, with it being kind of the Avengers 2.5.
Yeah.
It did really well. It's another billion-dollar baby in the franchise. Respectable opening weekend. Doctor Strange, another one where it's not like a AAA character. Respectable $85 million opening, and it was able to get past $500 million at the box office. So that's why I think Ant-Man, even though it's opened a little less,
I think Ant-Man will push. I think Ant-Man will gross more than Strange.
Yeah, I think Ant-Man is one of those ones where it is more fun to rewatch because it's a comedy. You're laughing, you miss jokes, so you want to see it again so that you can get the jokes. Of course, we talked about Guardians already.
Two things. Cal wished that Ant-Man had a connection to Clueless. And as Michael Douglas and Michelle Pfeiffer have worked together before, I would love to see Alicia Silverstone in the next Ant-Man movie in some kind of role.
That would be funny.
And Infinity War probably would have been a higher gross, but since Thanos eliminated 50% of the population, it really hurt the box office.
That's funny. Spider-Man, I remember people talking about Spider-Man's opening and kind of being a little disappointed at $117 million, but that seems like to be a pretty respectable opening. And again,
I think Spider-Man probably would have done better if it wasn't for so many people being like against the idea of another Spider-Man movie.
Yeah,
I think that hurt its initial. But it is a fantastic movie.
And then Thor, and I haven't looked at the openings for the other two Thor movies. Well, except for actually the other one Thor movie, but it's a respectable opening.
Yeah,
I think the trailers probably really helped sell this Thor movie compared to the other ones, the much derided Dark World, and then the first Thor. It's a fine intro. They were finding their voice.
Yes.
But this Thor Ragnarok has really connected with a lot of people. And this is another one because it's very comedic. It makes it fun to rewatch. I would have saw this one in the theater again, but we just didn't have time.
Yeah.
And I think that's it for charts.
All right. Is that all of our slides?
That's all of our slides.
All right. Well, that's been our Ant-Man and the Wasp coverage. And overall, I loved this movie a lot. I would put it about shoulder to shoulder with the first Ant-Man, which for me is a huge deal because Ant-Man is like my number 3 MCU movie as far as just how much fun and enjoyability and excitement and everything else. And we went back and saw it a second time today in 3D, and I was just smiling the whole time.
Yeah,
it's just so much fun.
Yeah, because I remember seeing it the first time, being real nervous when Hank went into the quantum realm because it's like, okay, I know she was on the poster, but do they really get her out of the quantum realm, or is that a misdirect? Is he going to die down here? So I was real nervous, but the second time, just enjoying seeing like how they handled the 3D. It was a fun time. I know you had talked about maybe wanting to go see it again in the theater.
If we don't, I'm not going to be broken up about it, but I would love to if we could. Cal points out that Infinity War is number 4 behind number 3 Force Awakens, number 2 Titanic, and number 1 Avatar. Infinity War is not done yet, though.
Yeah, who knows how long it could remain in the theater. Again, Black Panther has been in the theater since February,
and I think it's in at this point it's just like in small dollar theaters and stuff, but it's still out there.
It's still out there. It's still making money.
It's one of those rare circumstances where a movie is home released and still in theaters.
Yeah, like when I go check the Box Office Mojo, if I still see estimate, that means it's still in the theater. So it's just a very interesting
phenomenon. This whole situation is insane that we technically have 3 Marvel movies in the theater at one time.
Yeah, I don't remember it being like that before. I never paid attention, but this is I really enjoy all of these MCU movies. What they've been able to pull off is really cool. And
it's the same thing we've pointed out before, that like each one still has their own voice while remaining linked to the other movies. And that's why I like Ant-Man so much, and like Thor Ragnarok and Black Panther, because they are all unique movies. Like they all have something interesting about them. I even like that this Ant-Man wasn't so much a heist movie like the first Ant-Man, but still retained a lot of those heist elements, like the plan going off, and you don't know all the elements of the plan until it's executed and that kind of stuff.
And all of the, like, we got to get the MacGuffin.
Yes.
Those kind of moments. And then that moment when Ghost gets it back and it's like, oh no, she has it. But then she does what they need her to do, technically, because she makes the building actual size. And so now Hank and Janet can escape the quantum realm. So it's just, but she just did it in a not safe place. Like, oh, it's just in the middle of the wharf, whatever.
Yeah, it's not a huge deal.
Yeah, not a huge deal.
So, all in all, fantastic. Would see again. May see again, depending on circumstances. But, yeah, great. Great for you.
Oh, yeah.
Fantastic movie. The next To Infinity War and Beyond will be, like, early next year.
Yeah, like...
Unless we decide to do something extra between now and then, which I can't think of any reason to.
Yeah, because we kind of like run out of all of our series that we were doing. Jurassic was just in June. Another movie won't come out for that for like in a couple of years. Captain Marvel doesn't come out until next year. So we don't really have like a whole lot of like things that we could do right now.
So we've been brainstorming stuff, and we'll be making announcements about more of that later. We've already talked about a few things. We're going to do a book club. We're talking about doing maybe something with Ninja Turtles, because Ninja Turtles are awesome.
They are. The song said it, so it has to be true. Turtle Power
asks if we're going to do something with Venom. Venom is the next quote-unquote Marvel movie,
but it's not in the MCU. But if people wanted just to see our take on that,
we could do something.
Or maybe like the other non-MCU Marvel movies, like let us know, because again, we're kind of out of live content. I like doing these things. What do you want us to do? You let us know, and we can see what we could work out. Like Joe said, we'd love to do something with Ninja Turtles, especially when they announce when that movie comes out, because there's so many Ninja Turtles things to talk about. There's supposed to be a new Bill and Ted movie coming out. I would love to talk about both the Bill and Ted's, the video game, the TV series. There's a comic book out. There's a lot of geeky stuff that we like that we can find a connection to. But what do you want us to do? Like,
so, yeah.
What suggestions do you have? What do you want to see? Leave it in the comments. See from us. What kind of chart should I be making? Yeah. Let me know, because I like doing the research. I like talking about things. I like talking to you guys. I would definitely love to talk about more Marvel movies, but we just ran out of MCU. So if you want us to do like a sister series to this, we could do stuff with Blade. We could do stuff with the older Spider-Man. Howard the Duck apparently is my favorite movie from when I was a kid, according to my sister, but I don't remember that. So anywho, we're going to go ahead and shut this down. Thank you for joining us, everyone. Sorry. No. Y'all have a nice evening. Bye.